Woo!
1 1 2. Is it loud enough for you?
I think it's perfect.
Excellent.
How you feeling? Happy?
I'm good, man.
Sick.
I'm good. The real reason why I'm happy is because you've asked me to do this. You know what I mean? I'm seeing all my peoples, you know what I mean? All my peoples getting seen. Michelle's getting seen. I'm like, what? Luke, come on, bruv.
You know what? I had you on the list for a long time, but it was kind of like, you know, with Corona and everything, it was like, all right, because I wanted to start off with people who were my friends, and obviously you're a friend, but people who I know that I can kind of feel comfortable in a way of like, we've hung out in each other's houses. We can kind of have those intimate chats. Cause you know, the funny thing with the podcast was like, the beginning was super exposing for me because I'm not used to, I mean, you've been on stage, you've been rapping and talking on stage for years. But for me, it's like, I only danced. I never spoke on stage. So I'm not used to having my words recorded and having conversations and my opinions out there. Where I didn't have complete control over how I was portraying them in, you know, like Facebook statuses or anything like that. So the beginning, I was like, right, let me get the people that I'm like, I know kind of what our conversations are going to be like. I don't, there's no surprises. They're not going to hit me with anything I expected. So now I'm feeling a bit more confident with it. I'm like, okay, cool. Now let me talk to the people that I always wanted to talk to all along and that I haven't had such in-depth, you know, we've had a few talks on the plane and stuff like that. But, yes, I'm more like in that space where I can have these conversations, I guess.
Fantastic. Oh, well, I'm glad that I'm in that realm now.
Yeah, of course, man.
I'll try not to drop any bombs on you or anything.
No, it's all good. I'm a bit more prepared now. So we are here because this weekend is the world famous Breakin Convention. And yeah, obviously we want to talk about that. But like I said, I've always wanted to have a chat with you anyway. So it'd be super interesting to, you know, get onto some other topics around the scene and, you know, everything. But first, let's start with Breakin Convention. So this weekend, tell me about the lineup and stuff, because you had to do some rearranging because of Corona, right? So what's happening now?
So let's get the negative out of the way first.
Of course.
So basically, we were doing 4 nights, which is unusual for us at the Breakin Convention time. We usually do 2 or 3 full nights. Usually with an intro event on Friday. Yeah. But what we planned this time was to do first and second, Thursday and Friday, Breakin Convention Presents.
Yes.
So this is an initiative that we started a few years back and we do once in a blue moon, but we thought this time, because it's the Breakout Festival, you know what I mean? We're all breaking out of this lockdown, so let's do it full on. So basically we assumed that Boris was going to be honest about the June the 21st date. So we had prepared Company Nia from France, who were an amazing company that I saw in Denmark. Very powerful work, the work was about the mining community in the north of France. And there were political undertones of the piece, but they really did focus on the choreographer's father.
Okay, wow.
Who was one of the miners, and he wanted to honor that work. Nice. And the way they use break-in vocabulary to throw us into this underground space was really, really clever. Yeah. Anyway, it's not coming. So I've done
having said all of that. That was a Corona kind of rejig, I guess.
Quarantine issue. So we had to cancel those 2 nights because I think it's wiser to do that rather than to cobble something together.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, it affected that night as well. So we had Company Nia performing on the Saturday and Sunday. We also had Day Day and B-Girl Manuela. They couldn't come as a result of quarantine stuff. So basically the whole program started eroding of its international stuff. But I think that we got off lucky because basically there's a guy from Taboo Flow, the Ugandan b-boy crew, hip-hop dance crew that performed at Breakin Convention in 2011 with Myth of the Night Dancers. And he just so happens to be teaching at the Northern School of Contemporary Dance. They're doing a cultural form, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it involves hip-hop dance as well as I guess, African dance forms, global dance forms. And true, he's from Uganda, and his roots are traditional Ugandan dance styles.
Nice.
And which he's got breaking and popping and house dance and crump on top of that.
Wow.
So he's going to present a piece. I'm really excited about
amazing.
that.
And he just happened to be in the country and quarantined. And
dude, it was lovely.
Beautiful.
It was just so good. So it's nice to see Uganda on the program. Also, at the last minute, as an addition to the program, we've got Colombia in the form of B-Boy Spin.
Oh, nice.
And a spoken word artist called S.I. Stature.
Okay.
And we developed some work in open art surgery.
Yeah, I saw them working on it, yeah.
Spin was really excited about the idea of using his dance to shed light on the situation in Colombia, you know? Yeah. And it was beautiful because the negotiation with Spin, because he's not really, the theatre thing isn't his bag, you know what I mean? Right. But the activism is.
Yeah.
And this was a great way of doing activism and the dance at the same time and the lyrics. And it's just a beautiful piece. It's still nice. Being made, I guess. Which is the exciting thing about Breakin Convention. It always has been for years. The fact that we have so many premieres and work that isn't finished, but is able to be shown. So I guess those are the two additions to the program. But then we've also got Bagsy, who also did a little piece and developed some work in the open art surgery. But it's a very powerful piece about manhood. The piece is called Surrender. Nice. And he talks a lot about his upbringing and some of the conflicts in him wanting to be a dancer and coming from quite a traditional Nigerian family, you know what I mean? So there's it's a beautiful piece of work, and obviously his style is whacking. And so there's a lot of that in the piece.
Lovely.
We also have, I'm really excited about Emma Goody, actually, because I saw a piece that Boy Blue Entertainment put on for the choreographers within the Boy Blue company. And Emma did a beautiful jazz hip hop piece. I don't want to say jazz hip hop because it kind of makes it sound like the Diggable Planets or something like that. But it's more vintage kind of cabaret style imagery, like that we'd see in Chicago or something like that, but punctuated by furious popping and hard, and Gemma, you know Gemma from Morning anyway. She's nice with her popping and stuff. But yeah, she's got 4 girls up in this place, and it's just a beautiful piece. I'm very excited about that. Because she had a solo with something around that. She did, I don't remember where she premiered it, but Breakout or something.
Yeah, it might have been this kind of like I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, almost like Betty Boop kind of character play with the popping. So she's kind of an extension or a development of that. Nice. And
she's been working remotely because she's still in Dubai at the moment. So it's a really successful way of working. I just want to say that. In spite of the whole lockdown thing and us having to adjust to different ways of working, I think we've found new ways of working. Do you know what I mean? Which we can only add to our armory of ways of working.
I mean, I think especially with like, even in a kind of more corporate context of like Zoom meetings and stuff, it's like, now that we know we can do that, like I don't have to travel an hour for a 15-minute meeting anymore. We can just do it on Zoom. So I think, there's definitely a lot of, even within the creative practice, a lot of things that we didn't know were possible until we had to do them. And which, I mean, in terms of art, like a lot of our, I would say a lot of our jumps or breakthroughs come from times of hardship in one way or another. So, even with this, where it's not the kind of thing that we're used to in terms of like racial hardship or sexism or things that usually have these, Nina Simone and that have these really big impacts. But even with Corona, it's like, we've made some impact as artists, even in our process. So I think, there's a lot of things that can maybe aid our process, even when we are allowed out,
Well, I mean, this Breakin Convention is definitely a product of that.
Right.
As a result of the COVID protocol that we've got to look at, cleaning the space after every show. So one person shows, got dudes in Hamzat garms and stuff.
Like on the day?
On the day, man.
Oh, wow.
So, opportunity. to show all of the films that we've been working on over the last year.
Yeah.
Enough people been working on, you know what I mean? We got a dope film by, you know that company, Bird Gang.
Oh, I'm familiar.
They've got a sick film.
Nice.
Sick film.
What's that called?
I can't remember what it's called.
I may have seen clips or like I may have seen that them posting about it, unless it's something else that I'm thinking of.
It's very fresh, very new, very dope.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? Just go big up. Quayle, you know you the man. Big up all day. No,
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece of work. Can't wait to show that.
Nice.
We've also got a video by Apex Zero, the MC,
No.
and he's been working with contemporary dance actually, as well as hip hop dance styles. And also we're showing between each piece, we're going to show a short film from the Next Day Delivery program.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something quite new. Is that just this year that you've included that?
Just this
Yeah.
year. It's a
Right.
crazy project. You know, it's one poet or spoken word artist, one dancer and one camera.
Yeah.
And you have to make a film in 24 hours.
That's a nice concept.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do it personally, but I know
God,
some
this is
really
too stressful.
brave artists out there.
Yeah.
So
But it's nice to see, I think there's two extremes with these type of things in terms of making work. In like sometimes we don't take long enough to spend on our work and we try and rush things up. But then the other side is actually like we sometimes sit on ideas for decades even, like, oh, well, I've got songs like this in my playlist. I'm like, oh, well, when I have the right this and when I have the right that, then I'll make a piece to it. And it's like, sometimes like just get it out of your head. And then from there you can work on it, which I think is also, I would be tempted to say like something across the board that Breakin Convention encourages that type of work. Because even with open art surgery and back to the lab and stuff, it's like, let's get these ideas out. It's not like you guys say to the community, come back to us in 10 years when you've developed this hour-long piece. It's like, all right, you don't have, like, even when we've done open art surgery, it's like, just show up. Like, if you have an idea, we'll talk about it. If you don't have an idea, we'll talk about that too. But just get there and let's do something. Let's get some stuff out of your head. And I think it's there's benefits in both sides. There's also, of course, I would never say there's no benefit in taking your time with your work, but, you need both angles. You need to be able to do both. So,
well, I think there's a few things that come up with that. And the main one is money.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A lot of these companies that are able to work on their first draft of a piece for 3 months, you know what I mean? You got big bucks, you know what I mean, that's behind that. Unfortunately, we just don't have access to them kind of funds.
Yeah.
Also, I think that we can be a little bit more, I guess more people can have access. Do you know what I mean? And I think, it's an interesting one because I also think that with hip hop culture, spontaneity is one of our
trademarks
armors.
almost. Yeah,
I mean, that's what makes us strong. Our ability to, on the spot, give you a whole world of movement. Do you know what I mean? And some of the dopest sets from poppers, breakers, house songs, whatever, their set, which is improvised, feels like it's got a beginning, a middle, an end. It's got drama to it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that coming from a contemporary dance background that I do, I trained at London Contemporary Dance School and stuff. So I get it, the whole thing about taking your time and developing. But I'm sorry, the product can be a bit whack. Yeah. And I'm just
of course.
There's enough contemporary dance that's meant to be amazing. But it's just all right.
Yeah, and there can be like, you can take 5 years on a piece and it still be rubbish. Like it's not a guarantee of quality.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that what we can learn as hip hop artists is to learn how to use lots of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we're so used to not having that much time.
Yeah. I did a choreographic residency in Copenhagen a couple of years ago. And one of the tasks they did with us, which was weird at the time, but like the more and more I look back, the more and more I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. It was just like a thought exercise. So they took us to this location. It was an outdoor location, like a big building, courtyard kind of thing. And they were like, right, you have an hour, you have notebooks with you, you have unlimited budget, like all the money in the world, you're like Elon Musk or whatever, you're putting on a piece, right? And you have to write out the piece like almost in story form from beginning to end. So like first the lights come up and this happens and that. All the money in the world, all the resources in the world, what performance do you put on? gave us an hour, we came back. And it was crazy how, and the more we talked about it, the more we understood, but like how, like almost like how small our dreams were.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, I'll have, 50 dancers. And they were like, okay, cool. You don't want like a helicopter? You don't want, it's like, I don't know, I want a dancer with the lights on. And they're like, well then, you have all them, you wouldn't have like a bus drive in with, it's like, they were like, because we're so used to working with these small means, it's like, okay, well, when you do get this big money, what are you going to do with it? What's your 10? If we're working on 1 and 2, what's your 10?
Yes.
And it's just really interesting, both ends of the spectrum, to be like, okay, here's what I would do with nothing and, of my own resources and just off my own back and stuff. But then also, if I was given all the money, what do I do with it? What do I need? What do I want?
Dude,
it's interesting.
It is an amazing concept, because all of a sudden I started thinking of global flash mobs happening simultaneously, and every single one of the dancers has their own individual camera that somehow online you're able to access all anyway. Don't let me get started. Don't give me an infinite budget, dude. Wow.
But no, I think it's it's really interesting. I think what came to mind when you were talking about working in a, let's say, in a contemporary type of way and taking this time to develop versus a hip hop, not way of working, but something that, like you said, spontaneity is like one of our trademarks. And it's like, I guess this is for me an entry point to the conversation of hip hop in, let's say, contemporary spaces or in classical spaces, and what is our way of doing that, because I think that's something that every time I'm at Breakin Convention, I always think about this, or like when we're doing, like, I say hip hop theater in air quotes, but it's like, this is the bigger question, what is hip hop theater? Because
dun, dun, dun.
And I mean, I have a whole 5 different ways that this could go, but like for me, I think it's like, okay, we're gonna put hip hop into a space which was not created for hip hop. It was created for these classical dance forms, right? And it just so happens that they lend themselves to a different type of atmosphere. It's more like, okay, let's sit down and watch the layers and the depth into your art, which is amazing, because maybe at a battle event where I'm drunk and I'm like, there's a girl over there, and you know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, oh, well, look at the depth in this B-boy's, I'm going to just be like, oh, it looks cool, like awesome, I'm not breaking it down in the same way that I am in Sadler's, right, as an audience member. But then I guess it's how do we, I guess, in a way, keep the essence? And when does it stop becoming hip hop theater? This is my question, because, like Wang Ramirez or some of these people who do, which I would say could be considered contemporary dance, you know what I mean? But it's like, if they're from a hip hop background and they transcend that almost, I'm careful about using the word transcend, but they go into a space which it isn't needed to be labeled hip hop anymore. It's just dance, and they have vocabulary, they have essence, they have influence. But then at what point is it like, okay, well, we've removed it so far from its original environment that we should or shouldn't call this hip hop anymore? Is it that just because you're from a hip hop background that you can never not do hip hop? And in that case, which, and I'm not saying, I'm just kind of posing these as questions. Like, I'm not saying that I agree one way or another, because I would never want to be one of the people to be like, no, that's not hip hop. It's not real. It's not that. Because I think, and I've performed on those stages. So it's like a lot of the stuff is I think for me is still, it's almost irrelevant, because it's like, I don't care whether it's hip hop or not, but I know the conversation happens. And I think, this whole idea of, without adding too many things into the conversation, this whole idea of like maintaining a culture, I feel like is tough, because a culture is by essence not maintained. No one manufactured hip hop culture. It happened. So for us to say it doesn't belong in the theater, it's like, well, it's going into the theater. It's going this way. It's going on music videos, wherever, So for us to say, no, it can't, it's like, well, that's not how culture works. And then is it a culture anymore? And is it just a club that we are allowed or aren't allowed into? Anyway, these are just
all of.
I'm just posing thoughts.
Dude. I love all of the thoughts, and trust me, most of the thoughts I've thought about, not all of them. There's a couple of things that were quite new to me, like perspective-wise. But but if I can try and touch on all of
I mean, you don't have to answer every single one. I was just reeling them off.
But, I'd like to. I'll tell you the reason why. It's because I do not remember in 1994 hearing the words hip-hop theatre, I started making work. I left London Contemporary Dance School, and the first thing that I wanted to do was, firstly, I felt that I couldn't be part of contemporary dance culture. Right. Because the cultural values that existed in contemporary dance, it was an example of the cultural apartheid that I was living at the time. Right. So I'd be in the hood with my friends, mostly boys, black, into rap, reggae music, and, we're into girls, and then the contemporary dance world is mostly white, middle class, very LGBT, mostly women. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very different environment I was growing up in. So I felt culturally I needed to get back to the hood. Artistically, I was loving what I discovered with this theatrical vehicle. Yeah, the way in which motifs were used and developed, and how clever you can actually tell stories with just a few movements. It was the opposite of what I understood in hip-hop dance, where you had to make as many moves as possible. And you've got to show that you've got loads and loads and loads and loads of vocabulary that you never refer to again. You know what I mean? It's new. So I was excited about the idea of keeping small bits of vocabulary and seeing what you can do with that. So the challenge for me when I started making my work was that I wanted the hip hop audience to see this, because I made a decision that all of the ideas of the way in which you construct material, I thought, let's just do that with hip hop material. Simple as that. It's not that complicated. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I did. And I also fused my rap skills, and the first show that I made was called Lyrical Theatre, and it was a play on the term physical theatre, because I was very, very motivated by people like Wim van der Kabels, Ultima Vez from Belgium, Roses, lots of Belgians. The Belgians just kill it. So at the time, all I was thinking was these guys are raw with their movement. With Wim van der Kabels, it was the term Euro crash was a big term that was happening around the mid 90s, where the contemporary dance thing, it wasn't this kind of refined lines, and it was very physical and rugged. And I was thinking, damn, that reminds me of hip hop. It just, we can do that. Do you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, we'll smoke them just on the level of how b-boys, the amount of vocabulary that b-boys have and b-girls. That's a term we've got to look at. Breaking.
Breakers.
And poppers, the way in which the textures of movement that are taught if you've lived as a popper. Contemporary dance ain't touching that. Do you know what I mean?
True,
And when it comes to increasing your palette of movement, do you know what I mean? Once you've got hip hop styles in your body, then in a way you've got an infinite amount of possibilities in which I don't think contemporary dance and ballet necessarily arm you with. Because hip hop, you are responsible to add to whatever you've learned. You don't just replicate. That's called biting, right? Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I thought to myself, we need to call this hip hop theatre, because if I'm going to go into the theatre and hip hoppers just see, just theatre, why would a hip hopper go? You know what I mean? The hip hop at the time, the theatre at the time wasn't asking for hip hop at all. So, and this whole concept of high art versus low art, I ain't low, dude. You know what I mean? And just the idea of that we are lower because you've decided to call what you do high. You know what I mean? It started making me think this is cultural apartheid. This is a cousin of racism. Do you know what I mean?
And it's like very ingrained with the class structure and you know, that these things are only for these people and that type of stuff.
Whereas actually, it's just a space.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a space. Do you know what I mean? And I remember when I first started doing theatre, I felt, especially with Breakin Convention, let's just go to Breakin Convention.
Yeah.
When I first came to Sadler as well, I was aware of the levels, yeah? So I thought we have to exorcise all of that arrogance and all of that looking down on you type, you know what I mean? And just get rid of it, you know what I mean? And literally graph all over the place, you know what I mean? Just change up the whole energy of the space, you know what I mean? Even getting rid of the seats in the front, you know what I mean? Let's make it feel like a context in which hip hop can exist. So it's less to do with bringing hip hop to the theatre. It's more about bringing the theatre to hip hop. You know what I mean? And I think we succeeded at that. You know what I mean? And a lot of people from the culture were able to come into the Sadler's world and be like, oh, okay, now this is for me. You know? Whereas before, when you walk in the building, people are looking at you like, what are you doing here? And let's be real, it still happens now. There's sometimes, in this very same building where I've been for 18 years, there's some events that they have, and when I walk through the building, people are looking at me like, oh, they're lowering the tone here. And I'm cool with that because I've lived that in my life, and I'm always fighting that. And I like surprising people that might have thought, you're one of those types.
And you're like, you don't know who I am.
Do you know who I am?
And then you walk into your office and then they're like, oh, okay.
Well, you know, some of them are just like, oh, Sadler's Wells, you're lowering the tone. Anyway, so there's that. There's the other thing about hip hop as being a hip hopper and then walking into the theatrical space. At the time, I'm talking like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, it was unique. It wasn't done. Even the concept, I remember speaking about the concept of teaching hip hop. And people are like, oh, what, you can teach it? And I just thought, what the hell do you think an old school or a new school or any school, that's a suggestion, do you know what I mean? And just because we have a peer-to-peer teaching network doesn't mean that it's not education. Do you know what I mean? Sure. This culture grew outside of institution, you know what I mean? And has now taken over. So now institutions are going, oh, hip-hop, we need you, we need you. So I think in relation to class, as a hip-hopper, right now, you can come from the middle class environment very easily. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the breaking community in this country came as a result of graduates in these breaking societies in university. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily been something that's come from the hood it did in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Be interesting to look at like the percentages of people from different backgrounds that are practicing this.
And also, I think we've got to let's really look at hip hop and look at hip hop theatre. And enough people weren't even born when hip hop theatre was first immortalized on celluloid. Breakin the movie, the very last scene is hip hop theatre, right? Remember that music? I can't remember. Street music. Can't remember, but they're wearing like pink, shiny stuff. Do you know what I mean? But they're doing hip hop in the theatre. I remember in Beat Street, there was a scene with Cool Mo D. I think they're doing a Father Christmas rap. And they've got this material over and they just poke their heads through and they're rapping to each other. This is theatre. Do you know what I mean? And these are the earliest images of hip hop. Yeah. So hip hop has always been a theatrical vehicle. It's just that we've always felt as that we're not allowed in.
That's interesting.
Think about Flashdance. Yeah. Flashdance, the movie, was another example of where the girl at the end did a wicked backspin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just showing how hip hop is making her a better overall dancer.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Right now, if you're doing contemporary dance, or should I say, some of the best contemporary dance choreographers working at the moment work with hip hop artists.
Yeah.
Sidi Larbi, he works with an amazing pop, I can't remember the dude's name. Akram Khan, he worked closely with Sebastian Ramirez when it comes to finding movement for one solo that he did.
Yeah.
Desh, the solo. Hofes Schechter uses a lot of floor work that we can recognize from a hip hop perspective as well. And even just the use of the body, you know, which is crazy because when you see man like Far From the Norm, they, you know, he's clearly coming from a hip hop perspective, as in what he's training and stuff. But it looks like it doesn't. And some people even said he looks like he's been influenced from Hofes, you know what I mean? Which I think, I can see why people might say that, but I can also see clearly that he's influenced by hip hop.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know what I mean? So now I think we're reaching a stage where the blurring of the lines is making it difficult to even say whether it's hip hop theater or not. But my thing is this, once we lose hip hop as a term, then we lose hip hop theater. Yeah. Then it all just merges and meshes into.
Is that a bad thing or a good thing to you?
It's a terrible thing.
Interesting.
This is a cultural war we are facing right now. Yeah.
But go on, sorry.
And I was just going to say that we need to stand up and stand proudly and loudly to talk about where this comes from. Yeah.
Sure.
Because the idea, and I clocked the word that you used, and I forgive you. Yeah. What was the word?
Transcends.
Transcends. You know, it's greater than.
Yeah.
You know, the hip hop is here, but we want to go here.
Sure.
You know, this is crazy because I think that hip hop, the way it moves is more like a gas. Yeah. So any space hip hop can go into and make sense of it with hip hop.
Yeah.
That can be film, that could be any kind of music concert stage, anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Hip hop can live its life proudly, and it doesn't have to say it's not hip hop anymore to fit in. To be honest with you, I don't understand why we would do that. This post-hip hop shit and this urban. Someone said. I don't know. Oh no, I don't want to use hip hop no more. We're beyond hip hop. You know what I mean? I'm like, if we are beyond hip hop, because I've had this conversation with Ivan Blackstock. Yeah. If we are beyond hip hop, then where are we?
But I guess my question on that would be, is the idea, or would it be a positive thing for us to be seen just as artists in the way of like, we step in, it's like, oh, you're just a choreographer. Like, we don't necessarily think of Matthew Bourne based on, or Hofesh or whoever, based on their background or sometimes even their culture, even like beyond their country. And that's what I think I mean in terms of transcend or move away from the labels. That's how my perspective on it would be, not so much that we're better than it or it's something we should try and leave behind, but just that the idea being to be just seen as, oh, like if Botis walked in, it was like, oh, he's just Botis from Far From the Norm, which I think in my perspective is kind of how he is seen. You know what I mean? He's a choreographer in his own right rather than a hip hop act in the way of like, okay, maybe, and especially, you know, I'm talking from the perspective of the way the world is at the moment, where it might be that a show or a lineup might have contemporary ballet and they're like, oh, we need a hip hop act. So then they're looking into a pool of like, who is a hip hop act, blah, blah, rather than just on the merits of like who's good and who makes good work. So that's kind of, I guess, my devil's advocate on that would be like, oh, is the idea that we not leave it behind, but just turn into like, yes, okay, you come from a hip hop background in the same way that you come from a ballet, you come from this, but we're all just equally good artists.
Okay.
Regardless. You know what I mean?
I hear that. So we're talking about marketing.
Right. I think that's important.
So if we're going to market you as an artist in these type of spaces, these theaters, you're not going to get a hip hop audience. But if you don't want a hip hop audience, then that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't want that hip hop energy, if you don't want people making noise in the building, if you don't want to stand there and hold your nuts like, yeah, what? Then cool. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's just that for me, I was always saying that I'm not going to theatre on my own. I need to bring culture with me. I need to bring other artists who are hip hop with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of us need to come into this thing together. Yeah. Because this is hip hop theatre. Do you know what I mean? And hip hop as a culture has been so important in the world today. We can see it everywhere. Yeah. And I think because it's come from black and brown people, for some reason, when more white people and Asian people and everybody gets into it, then feels this need to just let go of the roots of it. Do you know what I mean? And start talking about, oh, well, this is now theatre. Yeah. What? So hip hop didn't matter. It feels like hip hop didn't matter. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
When you got ballet companies that do ballet, they say they do ballet. Even contemporary dance companies, they proudly say they do contemporary dance.
Sure.
Some might even say, I do new theatre. But whatever it is, I think that the name is so crucial to the audience and the marketing of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, where hip hop is concerned as a marketing vehicle, hip hop's being used to sell flipping bread. Hip hop's being used to sell so many different things. What, we can't use it to sell theatre?
Oh, yeah. No, I think, and I think, I guess on that end of the conversation, I think I'm in full agreement with you. And I think, like Botis, let's say, being viewed through the lens of hip hop gives him something special. If you just were told, oh, here's another contemporary act, you might be like, oh, cool. But if you're like, oh, he's from a hip hop background, it gives you a different type of insight into where he may have come from and all the cultural relevance to everything that's happening, right? I think my question as well is on the other end of that conversation, where at what point do we, from the hip hop culture, let's say, especially like what you were saying about the roots being from black and brown people, and especially from certain demographics, certain places in the world, at what point do we say you're not allowed to use our marketing? And what point, and who should be, I mean, this is such a huge conversation, but like who even is the ones to say that? Because it's like, there's all sorts of layers to that. And it's, now that you're saying about, white people, Asian people, everyone around the world is using this. If a B-boy crew from Korea do a piece and they say this is hip hop, cool, fine, because they're breakers, it's directly referencing the thing. If they start to get a bit more abstract with their breaking, cool, all right, we're still breaking related. Now it's very abstract, it doesn't even look like breaking anymore, but they started with breaking. Okay, well, all right, and then they get a few guys in the crew who never started with breaking, and it's like two of them who are breakers and two of them who aren't, and it's abstract. So then it's like, at what point do we say, you're right, now you're or at what point does it become you're not allowed to use that marketing term anymore because now you're taking advantage of where it came from. And we get into the cultural appropriation and that type of conversation. But it's a very, I guess my point is that it's a very grayscale type of thing. You have the black and the white, no pun intended, but there's a lot of gray, and at some point it's not okay anymore. We recognize that. And at some point it is okay, but there's a line somewhere in there, and I think that's what's interesting.
And that is the best place to create work, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Because when I first started doing hip hop theater, you know, people were like, what's going on? What is going on? I like it, but I don't know what it is. What is it, Jonzi? What are you? And I remember when I first started using the term hip hop theater, I remember someone said, this is early in the day, someone said, Jonzi, what do you mean hip hop theater? I mean, surely it's just free expression, right? And I said, oh, right, okay, so we're going to have a free expression festival. How's that sound? Yeah?
Just in terms of marketing.
Just in terms of marketing, you know what I mean? And, you know, so for me, I think that we need a USP, do you know what I mean? Because we're entering this world that has got so much history and stuff. What, you just want to blend in with that flipping dry colonial history? Or do you want to offer something new? Do you know what I mean?
I think this is something that I love talking about, because I think we don't often talk about it as artists enough, is the kind of more practical marketing side of things. Is like what you're saying, like we're not going to keep up with these things with 500 years of history if we don't hold our ground and come with a strong USP. And I think what's important is like, or what I often come across when I'm having conversations with people is that they don't see it as necessarily a marketing term or a way of labeling themselves, but a way of identifying themselves of like, oh, I do hip hop. And if you say to them, but is your latest piece hip hop? Because it's a bit, and they're like, no, they're very defensive of it. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with using different art forms, but if you would like to label yourself, I'm a hip hop artist, you know, then it's not as much of a, it's like, yeah, of course, cool. You're a hip hop artist. You come from this background, fine. But, and you know, not touching on the grayscale thing, but I think it's more like people use it as a badge of like, this is who I am.
Yes.
And then if you debate that, you're more debating who they are as opposed to like when you should or shouldn't use the marketing term, which is two different conversations.
Two very different conversations. It's a beautiful one, because how are you hip hop? Do you know what I mean? And I'll never forget when KRS-One first said, I am hip hop. And, you know, you arrogant so-and-so, you know what I mean? And then, and he said in some other lyric, he said, they fall slow. They don't realize that they are hip hop also. Do you know what I mean? And then it just got me thinking, wow, yeah, I am hip hop. You embrace it like that, like happily, do you know what I mean? And I guess for me, I've lived it, you know, since the age of 13, and I've devoted myself to this beautiful culture and watch its development and stuff. And I find it really hard to say I'm not hip hop. Do you know what I mean? And I think identity wise, there's so many layers to our identity. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm black, you know, Rasta, but, you know, not Rasta because I eat chicken, for example, silly things like that. And, you know, what else am I? You know, I'm a man, you know, but maybe I'm not. Do you know what I mean? You know, and I just think that once we get rid of all those labels, that's what happens when you're at home. Yeah. But for me, once I'm out in the world, I stand firm with my blackness. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. When I'm in my house, I'm just Jonzi.
Yeah.
So I think that,
I mean, it's how the world works, isn't it? We all kind of identify with different groups, and it's very natural, I guess, in humans, you know, even without all the history and the oppression that has made it necessary for you to like stand with your blackness. Whereas even if none of that ever happened, you might still be so firm in your identity because it's part of how humans form groups, I guess, you know?
I mean, you know, there's tricky ones. Look at what I'm wearing right now, yeah? I'm wearing the Three Lions England, the same colonial power that went all around the world and just fucked up everything. Yeah. So why am I wearing this on my chest?
That's interesting.
That's because I live in England, and just because I live in England doesn't mean I can't criticize it.
Sure.
If anything, surely that's what makes us live in this beautiful democratic so-called country.
Yeah.
That we can speak and criticize. You know, I mean, come on. There's so much to criticize. You know what I mean? Everyone has got a right to criticize England, But I've also got a right to be like, you know, Sterling reminds me of my brethren, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Phil Foden, he reminds me of my brethren who I grew up, do you know what I mean? And actually, they look like my primary school, do you know what I mean? Because I come from a multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural upbringing, you know, in Bow, you know, I live next door to a Mauritian family, next door to a white English family, upstairs an Irish family, just over there a Japanese, a Jamaican family, down the road a Southeast Asian family. Do you know what I mean? And growing up into that was a reality for me. So another thing, sorry, just going back to the hip hop thing. Yeah. We bring natural diversity into the theatre space, in a way in which I think it's forced within the contemporary the system, It always feels like, oh, they've got a token black in the company, whereas in hip-hop, it doesn't feel like that. Everybody feels like they're meant to be there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And maybe it's more naturally about the qualities of the dancer or the person or the rapper or whatever, rather than needing to fill a quota, I guess.
Yes, I think so too.
But you know, I guess it's kind of along the similar lines, but something I'm interested to hear your perspective on is like, I guess the term would be like gatekeepers or something, because I guess with something I've heard people talk a lot about is gatekeepers within the theatre or these type of, in air quotes, high art realms, you know, even like Arts Council or something, like we decide who gets the money and therefore we decide who succeeds. And there's a lot of bias in that, and not just the arts, you know, anything, because if it's humans making the decision, there's always going to be bias, right? Yes. So I find it, I've never spoken to you about this, or I don't think I've heard you speak about it, where you've gotten yourself into a place where you're now part of this world, you know, you've been accepted, you're in Sadler's and you're a part of the, I guess you would say like a part of the Sadler's World organization, right? So you're a kind of permanent establishment within these things, which is amazing for, I think, for everyone in the hip hop community to be like, holy shit, like we did it, you know, like, and it's amazing, you know, this is like an in, and I don't know that there's a lot of other companies or artists on this level, you know, like there's people that have done things on big, even like Botis or something like that, where it's like, okay, you've worked in these spaces and you've worked with these people and you're very accepted in that world. But to the Jonzi and Breakin Convention, it's like a solid part of it, right? So then my question is, how has it been for you in terms of now, in a way, you've kind of become a gatekeeper, because it's like, you know, whoever it was that like opened the gate for you or let you in, or even maybe you kicked the gate down, but you got in somehow. But then naturally the gate swung closed behind you, and now you're the one that opens the door to let, you know, by who you let on the main stage or who you get in open heart surgery. You are now not the sole person, but you're one of the top, you know, few to let people into this gap that you've created, I guess. So how does that feel? Is that like a big responsibility? Do you try and, is it tough to like balance out? Because again, we're always going to go with biases of what we like and stuff like that. And is that hard to think, oh, it's more about, you know, it's more than what I like, I've got to think about more things than that? It must be tough.
It is very, very tough. And the idea of wanting things that I like is something that I had to come to terms with very early in this programming realm. Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult to program something that you don't like. But
you know it's of quality, let's say. It's just not your thing.
I mean, you know, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It just feels so disingenuous. Do you know what I mean? So I had to just accept that. Do you know what I mean? I had to accept that I personally can't do that.
Right.
So it helps having people like Michelle, who's able to just give me another way of looking at a piece of work. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't fall completely on my lap. Do you know what I mean? If there's stuff that I've got challenges with, I reach out to my peoples and I trust them. Do you know what I mean? To give me the right advice, you know? So that's that.
Yeah.
Also, I think that when it comes to ethnic diversity, it's very natural in hip hop to make these choices. Do you know what I mean? So you're gonna see a lot of black people on the stage.
Yeah.
Partly because black people are doing the do. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way it is, you know? And I think it's really important that the door is kept wedged open. Do you know what I mean? And all I've been doing is just being
get in.
Quick. Just thinking at some point it's gonna, Jonzi, that's enough now, slam, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, ooh, you know, and it's really, I feel really proud that some of the recent Olivier Award winners have passed through Breakin Convention. You know, I'm proud that, you know, Kate Prince, you know, her first gig was at Breakin Convention. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, we've been, I guess, I wouldn't say the incubator, do you know what I mean? But we've definitely been a transitional space for loads of different artists, do you know what I mean?
I would definitely agree.
And I'm so, and if anything, I knew that when I was going to get here, and if I am, and it dawned on me after a while that I was a gatekeeper. Do you know what I mean?
Which we always think of as negative, but it doesn't have to be.
I mean,
it's just a lot of responsibility.
You know, you get your haters though. Do you know what I mean? So, but you know, fundamentally for me, you know, I accept that. Do you know what I mean? I can't please everyone.
Sure.
But I'll try.
Yeah. And I think this is, I don't know if it was on the podcast or where I was having this conversation, but I did say like one of the things that I love about Breakin Convention, I mean, there's a lot, but is how you would have such a wide range of acts. So it never, I can imagine Breakin Convention at the very beginning being like, okay, who's our local acts? Who do I know? Who can I get in? That kind of thing. And then it got big and you had all these big acts on there, but you still always have I don't want to say like lesser acts, but in experience wise, they, you know, people that are not 10 years into the game with 2-hour-long pieces. They're like, well, we have a 5-minute piece. Can we be on stage? Like I've been that person. Yes. So it's like,
I remember your lovely duet, man.
Oh, thank you, man.
Do you know what I mean? I really liked it because I think you worked with the space really well.
Oh, thank you.
With these large portions of light.
Oh, the lighting designers hated us. We did, So just for context, anyone that's listening, we did, me and Lee Putman did a duet in Breakin Convention. I want to say 2018, 2019, I can't remember. 2018, I think we did it on the main stage, which was really cool.
How long was the piece?
10 minutes. 10 or 11 minutes, yeah.
But I remember it was a very engaging piece. And,
thank you.
And you could see the way your minds were approaching with the technique that you have and the way in which you were able to develop material. You know what I mean? It's only now that you've mentioned it that all of the images are flooding back. You know what I mean?
That's nice. It's nice that you have memories of it.
Yeah,
you must see so much.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. I have forgotten certain pieces.
Yeah. I mean, me too. But I think that, I mean, so that's one thing I love about Breakin Convention is you always have those kind of, let's say, grassroots kind of acts who are just starting out and they get to be on the same stage and in the same program as some world famous acts, which is beautiful. But I imagine it must also then be hard because, you know, you're opening the door, trying to get everyone in a wider sense of like, we've got moves to make. We need more people inside the room than out to be able to make these moves. But then also you must have to balance the pressure of, you know, selling tickets and, you know, getting these people in and maintaining the quality and not from our perspective, because there's been some pieces that I've seen that were very, let's say, like inexperienced or amateur artists compared to the other ones, but I still love them. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I can't wait to see in 5 years how this develops. And I'm happy that this was on the stage. However, from a critique person or like from someone who doesn't know our world or anything like that, or is just not there to see inexperienced artists, they want to see the finished pieces. God,
what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? They're not ready for the stage.
Exactly. And this...
Alistair! What's going on here?
This must be a hard line to balance, I guess, in the sense of like now, again, it's part of the, I guess, the responsibilities of being in the gate is like you've got I guess in a way, people to answer to. Of like, we need to sell tickets, we need to make people happy, and that's got to be a whole. I'm really intrigued with this aspect. And I was speaking to Kenrick about similar things because I'm intrigued with this aspect of artistry, I guess, in the way that at a certain level, we're all used to just creating, throwing some stuff on stage. People go, that was great, they clapped, all good. When you reach a certain level in life and in business with your art, it transforms everything. And I've had tastes of it in places, but nothing compared to like you or Kenrick or Ivan or people like that. But it's like, I'm so intrigued by how you deal with it and how you balance these things and still kind of maintain yourself and don't go one way. Don't go, screw this, I'm out. Or don't go, I'm in this for the money, let's stack.
Okay. So beautiful things that make me think of 2006, Breakin Convention 2006. So I was working with Kate Scanlon, and she was leading the youth companies, and I remember 2006, I just felt that we were a bit youthed out, and when I say youthed out, I felt that the program was looking a bit samey. Do you know what I mean? With like kind of the street dance type thing. Do you know what I mean? And I remember thinking, the street dance scene. Sorry about this.
That's right, no worries.
Yes. I think the street dance thing is obviously a big part of hip hop and stuff, But the formulaic approach started to get really obvious. And I remember after 2006, I said, nah, that has to change. You know what I mean? And I just got a little bit more focused on it. Okay, so the roots of Breakin Convention's programming, it always started big. The first one, we had Electric Boogaloo's. Right, We had Wanted Posse, do you know what I mean? We had, Salah when he was with them, Mio Song. Was that the year we had? No, we had a Korean crew come through. It wasn't Mio Song at the time. So we went big, but it was always about the best around the world and around the corner. So I think this balance of having young energy, you can't beat a group of 15-year-olds that just want this. And what they make up for in, a lack of technique is that youthful, exuberant energy. And how can you be mad at that?
It's a different type of show. You're watching for something different.
But remembering that it's a whole evening's work. You're gonna get hit on so many levels. You know what I mean? You're not just gonna get dance. You're gonna get rap as well. You're gonna get graffiti. You're gonna right here where we're sat now. We've got ciphers going on. As you can see, the circular nature of these scratches on the floor here. You know what I mean? So, Breakin Convention isn't just about the artists on the stage. And I think that, and it's not just about dance, you know what I mean? And I think that we've got to realize that hip hop, before the dance, the music and all of that, hip hop is a spirit. Do you know what I mean? And that feeling of hip hop is something that is almost, it could be undefinable. Do you know what I mean? But it's that feeling that you're in a hip hop space. Do you know what I mean? And that was something that I always wanted for Breakin Convention, that there isn't any one type, or should I say any type of age that comes. This is for over 18s. No. Hip hop's for the children, as ODB says so eloquently. You know what I mean? And I think one of the beautiful things about Breakin Convention is that it is for a family audience. Whereas so many hip hop started to become an over 18 thing. Do you know what I mean? I guess with the swearing and rap just being all sold on its ability to just say swear words and talk about sex and drugs and stuff, you know what I mean? Whereas for me, I think hip hop, it's clearly a young thing, like breaking. That's pubescent. What are you rolling around on the floor for? Why are you rolling around on the floor?
Because it's fun.
And this is something that young people do. And it just so happens that when you get that spirit of it at that age, then you will be that age for the rest of your life in this culture.
But what I think is interesting as well is the bigger the culture or anything gets, the more pockets you're going to find of it, right? Because there's just more people involved. So I guess maybe there was a certain age demographic that started hip hop, it might have been a certain, and there was no over 60s that were into hip hop because they were into disco or whatever in their era. So I guess now it's like, it's grown in terms of where it's being. So like now there's a thing which is Japanese hip hop. There was never that before. French hip hop has its own culture, but now it's like also age range. So like there's a way to be young in hip hop. There's also a way to be old in hip hop. Especially with and different ways of doing it. You have like rap battles, but then you also have like certain rap songs that are just for the club, or you have like, I guess like the podcast like Joe Budden and all that, which I always talk about, but like of hip hop media and people breaking down things and analyzing, and you have different ways. And for me as a 31-year-old, I love listening to in-depth talks about like, oh, what did Drake mean when he said this? Or like, what's going on behind the scenes with Cardi B's contract? And like all this, I'm like, oh, this is me as a 31-year-old. But, whereas something like TikTok or whatever, right, it's not so much me, but then you even have a portion of the culture in that area. So it's like the age range expands as the geographic range expands, I guess.
As I said, it's like gas, you know what I mean? Whatever context there is, there's a way of being hip hop in that context.
Yes, yeah. Like even, being a woman in hip hop, being a man in hip hop, being
gay in hip hop.
Yes, this is actually a really interesting thing that I hadn't thought about. On that, I've had a lot of people, some people come to me to ask me advice about race in hip hop, right? And we've had this conversation, I think, on the plane, and that I'm half Indian and half American, right? So it's funny because
Which American? There's a few of them.
Like North American, like my dad's from Detroit, and
where's his forefathers from? Because
I think his ancestors might be German.
Okay.
Like a few, because I think he looked into like ancestry thing, and I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 generations. I don't know, but my last name's Lentis, so we weren't sure where that came from. Sounds kind of Portuguese, but it's not. I think they reckon it's German heritage somewhere, like settlers. So that side of me is white. My mum is Indian and was born and grew up in India. And I've always, I mean, this is just a side point, but like I've always identified as being white because that's how everybody's seen me. And that even on like forms, I was ticking white British. And I was like, I'm not though. Like my whole primary and secondary school, I had not abused, but I had racial stuff thrown at me. And I was always like given racism about certain things being Indian. And I was also a lot darker when I was younger. I've like lightened up as I've grown. But so, I mean, that's all to say is like, I've lived most of my life like thinking of myself as white, and now I'm kind of trying to embrace the mixed origins and the not so clear cut or heritage, let's say. I've had people, younger people, kind of speak to me, or I've been around conversations where they've been like, "Oh, well, I'm white and I'm from the Midlands or something. Should I be a part of this culture at all?" And especially in the Black Lives Matter movement last year now, or 2 years ago now, with George Floyd. No, it was last year. But they were kind of, there was all this activism and there was a lot of pressure on everyone, especially on social media and young people to be like, be involved, say something, do something. And then obviously that is directly linked to being a part of hip hop, because now you're like, I'm in a space that, do I belong in this space? Am I allowed to be teaching popping, which came from black people on the West Coast? You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of people that were not sure, like, should I not be even doing this? Like I heard a couple of people say they didn't want to do it anymore. Wow. My perspective has always been that my first and foremost, let's say, responsibility to the culture is to be authentic. I've never pretended to be anything I'm not. I grew up where I grew up in a certain time. Like there's certain things that I know I lived through, like grime when I was younger was a very, like, I lived through those things starting, and I remember hearing them on pirate radio and stuff. And I never lived through a Cool Herc party or, you know what I mean? So I know where I am, and I've always tried to be as authentic to that.
Where did you grow up?
Northwest London.
Okay. Which part?
Like I was born in Harrow, lived a lot in Watford, and when I was with my parents. But we were always hanging around like Harrow and inwards from there.
Right.
So we would go to like in like North Harrow and stuff. We would go to like DJ sets where they would like just some guy doing grime tunes and like someone passing around a mic and stuff. And it was like I can recognize like I was in that culture of grime. I always remember listening, like when my mum would go into the shop, I'm tuning into like the pirate radio to hear like, I think it was like Rinse or some of those like,
Rinse FM,
yeah. And some of the other ones where I'm like, oh, this is sick. And then I try and like figure out who it was and all that stuff. But I didn't have that with American hip hop, let's say. You know, it was in terms of age wise, I was too young. And it just wasn't the thing, but I've never pretended to be, you know? So this is always the advice I give to people is like, you don't have to pretend to be a part of hip hop. I don't think you have to pretend to be, you don't have to go to a hip hop battle and be like, yo guys, I'm from the hood. It's like, you don't have to. If you're a white guy from the West Midlands,
just keep it real.
Be you, do the dance, but put your influences, put your preferences in there and don't pretend to not be. But I guess getting to my question is like, what would be your, because, you know, the gas analogy is really nice and there's a way to be everything in hip hop. There's a way, like you said, which is beautiful. There's a way to be gay in hip hop. There's a way to be trans in hip hop. There's a way to be a woman, to be from Japan. But in terms of when the gas starts to touch white people, I feel like it's a little bit more complicated in the sense of how they receive that. Because I think it does, you know, hip hop's reached everywhere in the world. So a person from the West Midlands or from Scotland is of course going to find hip hop and fall in love with it in such a natural way, the same way we all do. But I guess it's them having it in a turmoil of like, okay, how do I approach this? You know what I mean? It's a tough thing to balance.
It is a tough thing. And when we look at some of the cultural roots of the culture, that it grew out of the ashes of the civil rights movement. Do you know what I mean? If we look at America, in the late 60s, it was war. It was war. You know what I mean? And I remember KRS-One says this in a lecture. He talks about how the charismatic black leader was murdered. Yeah. You know, all up and down the country, there was murders, you know, organized by COINTELPRO. So truth to power is something at which makes you an endangered species, especially as a black man in that time. But out of the ashes of that, KRS-One talks about everybody becoming a charismatic black leader and bringing on yourself a superhuman power. Even the names of people at the times was referring that. Grand Master Flash, Grand Master Melly Mel. You know, these young people had nothing, but they said, you know what, I am something. I am somebody. I am somebody. Do you know what I mean? But that idea of I am bigger than that.
Like, you're not going to give me my royalty status, so I'm going to give myself that.
I'm going to be royal. You know what I mean? Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Yeah.
So I think that we've taken what was burned and destroyed, and we've rose up and said, no, you're not going to do that. We're all going to be powerful people. And that idea exists for everybody around the world. You know what I mean? Because there's white people that ain't got shit in so many places around the world that can see that message and be like, I relate to that. You know? And even though white supremacy and all of that still exists, it's a smokescreen for the realities of how economy really affects us. You know what I mean? And I think that you know, when I think about Russian b-boys, you know, some of the greatest b-boys on this earth, and because they're living harsh, you know what I mean? It's not like they're living easy, you know? So I think that hip hop allows us to look at ourselves, question ourselves, and then come into the culture. It ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. Rakim, you know, immortalize those words, and hip hop is an example of that. So I think that if we are going to respond to the tyranny of racism and the tyranny of inequality, I think that it's only natural that we're all going to come together.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's not about being separate. It's not about being kept in our silos. We've seen over the last 20 years how polarization only services rich people. Do you know what I mean? It's divide and conquer. You know what I mean? Hip hop is the opposite of that. So for me, I'm welcoming everybody into this culture, and that was what was promised from early, you know?
Yeah, and I think Breakin Convention feels like that to me. You know, it feels like, I mean, on the, even just in a audience experience wise, it feels kind of like everyone's welcome, race, sexuality, you know, like whatever it might, even age groups, you know, it's like, as much as like you were saying, like a kid can come who's like 7 and enjoy it, but also going as a 31-year-old, I don't feel alienated. I don't feel like, oh, this is a kiddie show. You know what I mean? It's like, it kind of is a, you know, I know people aren't going to be swearing and it's not going to be a certain level of adultness, but I don't feel alienated because of that, because I'm an, you know what I mean?
Yes,
and also I don't need that to enjoy a show. But
you know, there is something I have to say, I came into this building when I was 14 to see the London Contemporary Dance Company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And one would argue that that's adult.
Right.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So much so, it made me think I want to be part of this world. Do you know what I mean? And I want to bring my world into this world. And I remember thinking that from a very young age.
You know what I think as well is like, this is not so much, well, maybe with hip hop, but with art in general. I think one of the things that makes it ageist in a way is that when that happens, like say you were a 14-year-old and you went in to see a show and you didn't enjoy it, you're told that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, like a kid going to watch like an hour-long show, they might just, even something I might feel inside, but they say it, they might just be like, I'm bored. And it's like, we say, oh, but you're not old enough, you're not mature. Boring is a valid criticism. This show is boring. Like, and you know, there might be things that change when you get older, you know. You might not like olives when you're a kid. When you get older, you're like, oh, these taste pretty good. It might be an acquired taste. However, it also might be a valid criticism. And I think if there was more acceptance of negative feedback or negative criticism, we would accept more of different ages, I guess. Because then you could get, because even if like a 14-year-old, like you said, like there might be a lot of shows that they don't like, but you happen to find one that you do like. And there might have equally been other ones that, you know, that you didn't if you had gone to them. But
And also we've got to remember, other kids were saying, oh, this is boring. They hated it.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like, you don't know.
Yeah, there's
Shut
something.
up. So actually, as a 14-year-old, I was saying to them other 14-year-olds, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And the same way, I was like that with hip-hop. Hip-hop wasn't for everyone at the time.
Yeah.
It was only the cool kids that got hip-hop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was an element of, this ain't for you. That I had when I saw, it was a piece called Forest by Robert Cohan. And he made that on the London Contemporary Dance Company. And I remember the dancers. It was Patrick Harding Irma, an Australian dancer that I just thought was just dope. The way he danced and his hands were just, it wasn't like, it was, his hands were stronger. And I remember all of these little details that I was attracted to. And also, I remember watching was it Roses? No. It was before her. Oh, what was her name? She's quite famous. She's well known in the contemporary dance world. And we're doing a piece of hers performed by all African contemporary dancers.
Oh, wow.
It's going to really annoy me.
I don't think I'm going to be able to.
No, you're not going to be able to help me. Anna Therese de Kiersmacher. Therese de Kiersmacher. But I think that's... But anyway, I remember when I was younger and watching this weird contemporary dance stuff on telly. And there was loads of leaves on the ground. And there was this woman that was being pulled and then she'll move back to the same position. And it just repeated it over and over. And I remember watching it thinking, I shouldn't like this, but I can't keep my eyes off of it. And I realized contemporary dance is for me, man.
Yeah, I know. And I think a lot of times we see one show. I know a lot of people like this. They see one show, don't like it, and go, I don't like contemporary dance. It's like you don't not like it. You just haven't seen anything you've liked, you know? Same could be the same with hip hop. There's a lot of rubbish. So you could go to a battle and be like, this was horrible. And I'm like, yeah, it was horrible, but come and see BC1 or something and you're going to see. But yeah, it's a whole interesting, I don't think there's any like concrete ends to those conversations. But what the other thing I was going to kind of touch on with you is, you know, a lot of my viewpoint on you is this, I guess your elevation to the position that you've been in, right? And part of what you do also requires you to be very, like have your ear to the ground and to know what's happening. You know, like you have War performing this weekend, like we spoke about. War are very, like they're not new, they're very established, but they are like the cool young crew, you know, like I don't know their ages, but they are the ones that are like that demographic. They are the hot shit. So it's like, obviously, you know, you can hear about them and you're on social media or you know, you might have seen them on Stormzy or whatever, but it's like, how do you kind of find these people who are maybe not necessarily boy blue, but are dope and need to be on these big stages, but how do you kind of, and then maybe even not people that don't have as much of a high profile as War and they're a bit maybe tucked away in the cracks, like do you go out and watch stuff? What's the process of that?
Boy blue.
Really?
You literally said it, yeah? I didn't know about them.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But we are connected with people who do know about them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll basically just straight up and say, boy, you know, Kenrick said, yo, check these guys out. Do you know what I mean? So it's I can't keep my ears to the ground. Well, I guess if we call keeping your ears to the ground, I didn't go out and see them and find them myself. Do you know what I mean? And I'm really happy to say the people that I first programmed all them years ago, we're still in communication. Do you know what I mean? And they're in communication with the younger lot. You know what I mean?
So you have kind of networks that reach out to those.
Absolutely. And I think we've got to acknowledge the shoulders on which we stand. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And who's standing on my shoulders. Because I'm talking to them. You know what I mean? Ivan, you know, he is always going to be someone that is part of my world and someone who I'll reach out to and be like, Ivan, what's going on? Who's doing shit? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it's not just my job isn't just me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The same gap through that people are running in. They're saying, as they're running in, they're going, Jonzi, check this dude. You know what I mean?
Let him in.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah. Because I guess that's something that maybe I think people don't see, and people maybe don't speak about as much and for whatever reason, but is the networks that we all hold, you know, like for you, it's like, okay, Jonzi D. Jonzi's the guy at Breakin Convention. He's over there. Kenrick's over there. But it's like, you know Kenrick, you know Brooke, you know this, but you know Mukta. Like you guys have a network and you talk behind the scenes, you know what I mean? And then those people have a network and everybody talks to everybody else. And I think, I mean, I guess it's part of the hip hop, the way to do it is, you know, your network and the kind of social communication of it. But is that a lot of these things happen, people that you might not even know each other have had like in-depth conversations about stuff and everybody's talking about everyone. And this is, you know, even with reputations and stuff, this is why you got to be careful in a way because everybody knows everybody. You don't know who. It's like, I might piss off Kenrick, but it doesn't, I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with Breakin Convention, but it does. Because the next time you ask Kenrick, oh yeah, is Luke still doing work? He's going to be like, yeah, no, screw Luke, he's an asshole. You know? So you never know where the conversations are happening, I guess.
It's a deep one because, you know, I'm aware of the hatred that can happen, dude. Do you know what I mean? And you know, there's history that we can go back to and we can see ruptures in the lineage of the scene, basically because people just don't get along with each other. You know what I mean? And trust me, I'm definitely part of that. You know, I've got, you know, enemies. Do you know what I mean? But what it is, I don't want to add water to those seeds.
Yeah.
Let somebody else add water to them. Do you know what I mean? But I'm very conscious that there's a fragility to people's egos and emotions and stuff like that. Mine too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm consciously aware that there's beef in certain areas.
Right.
But I'm not giving it water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to let that destroy what we have. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
And it's like if you focus all your energy on that, you're not focusing your energy on what you're doing or anything like that. That's interesting though. Like what you said about your that you also have like a fragile ego. Like again, you don't have to tell me, you don't have to share if you don't want to. But is there any moments where you've kind of felt a bit fragile or a bit like, oh, this I don't know what other platforms I would point to that are on the scale of Breakin Convention, but that's from my perspective.
There aren't any.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So, but I mean, even let's say Summer Dance Forever or something like that, you could say that their theatre thing is like, maybe it's not as big as Breakin Convention, but they're getting some reputation with, oh, they're holding a theatre thing. But have you ever kind of felt a bit nervous of like, they could be this, not Summer Dance, but anyone or, you know.
Let's use Summer Dance as an example.
Sure.
Yeah. Luke, he's my brother. Do you know what I mean? He's always calling me going, Jonzi, what's going on? What's the next thing going on? And I give him and I let him know who that is.
Yeah.
And he too with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He invites me to be part of panels for judging stuff.
Yeah, sure. I
you know
saw
what
you there. Yeah.
So I see them as allies. Do you know what I mean?
And in that way, it's all love to see them succeed, I guess.
Definitely. Do you know what I mean? Luke says to me, Jonzi, when we come to Breakin Convention, that made us want to do theatre. Do you know what I mean? So,
you mean John?
John.
You said Luke.
John, sorry, Luke is the guy that looks after.
Oh, is he? Okay.
So
right.
yeah, John as well. You know
so you've got John is the kind of face of Summer Dance, and then Luke is the like programmer or the.
He programs the theatre show.
Ah, got you. Okay, I didn't know that.
So John is very much, he's that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, but I'm not gonna let division.
Yes.
Fuck this whole thing up. Not having it. Yeah. These are my brothers on the scene.
Yeah.
The Hooch. He's my brother on the scene. You know what I mean? What's my man's name? He does. Come on, Jonzi. Okay, I've got an issue with memory. You know? My memory's shot me. But who does the brilliant event in not France, Gordon Bennett. Don't cuss me, people. Yeah, but I've got my memory's shot. Not Summer Dance Forever. The other thing, the B-boy event, the big one that they do in Heerlen. Come on, how can we not know this? I'm embarrassed.
In Holland?
Yes.
B-boy.
Heerlen. Summer Dance Forever. And then there's B-boy. You know what? I don't care. I'm not going to let this go. Yeah?
We have to find it.
Let's go. In Heerlen, there's a break-in event.
Is it B-boy Classics?
No, that's
Undisputed. I'm just naming B-boy events now.
You know what? I'm not going to let this one down. Yeah, I'm just going to accept that Jonzi has got the memory issues.
We're going to like insert a voiceover or something from later.
We will. All right,
a phone call. You can call your voice note me and I'll insert.
I'll do that.
But yeah, so like it's more about for you is like, I guess the mentality that it's bigger than your feelings or their feelings. It's like we have to work harmoniously to not let this shit fall to the ground just because we don't like each other, or we might even have had one issue and now it's like let's move on because we got bigger things to work on.
Yes. And anybody out there that's listening to this podcast or watching it who's like, I know I got beef with Jonzi. Give me a call. Yeah. And let's squash the beef. Ting done.
Yeah.
I'm not, there's when I look at society out there and I see the war that we have, you know what I mean? When I see Carnival getting cancelled and I see them people in Ascot all together, all having their fun, and I see Euro 2000 and I see full packed venues, I'm not going to have beef with my peoples, you know what I mean? So, we got to come together.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't know any of the like things you're referring to in terms of the beef or whatever, so I don't know what the problems are. But I guess, I can imagine when you're at a place of success and when you're at a place where you're making the decisions about who gets seen on stages and stuff, I can imagine people not taking it well, Like I've been in, I was going to touch on like all the stuff I've done with Breakin Convention because it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Like Breakin Convention was my first show I ever went to. I think first show I ever went to in 2007 was the first one I came to. And because I had started going to the guys, they were ruthless at the time, Simeon Campbell and all those guys, started going to their classes. And Sim told me that he's like, oh, there's a show this weekend, you should come and check it out. Because I wasn't even really a dancer, I just went to a couple of classes. So he took me to Breakin Convention. It was like BirdNet was the first time they did that. And I can't remember who else was there, but some big acts. And yeah, then I was like, holy shit, like I really like this. And then, I've done, like I did, I think it was 2010. No, not 2010. When was the 10-year anniversary? 13?
10.
2010.
Oh, was it? I get confused with the 10-year anniversary.
It would have been
2010.
Yeah, so you started in 2006?
We started in 2004. That was our first Breakin Convention.
2014 then. I did the main stage with Vice, with Quayle, which was crazy because also Quayle was one of like the first, Quayle and Ivan, I was just saying to Chelsea, is like two of the people I looked up to when I first started, like some of the first classes I went to. So the fact that it was at Breakin Convention to perform with Quayle, I was like, this is like special for me. So we did that. And then I toured with you guys and Vice in Luxembourg, Toronto, Denver. Then I've done open heart surgery twice. I did the BCTV thing.
Yes.
And I did main stage with me and Lee's duet. I think that's it. But it's like I've had a lot of like contact, I guess, with Breakin Convention. I've been to a lot of I don't think every single year, but I've been to a lot of them. But I can't even remember what my point was. But
history.
Oh yeah, us like I know what it was. I've also auditioned and not got main stage, and I know that. I mean, this was like maybe when we did the Turbulence piece. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember. It was like a little showcase, and we did the watches thing, and me and you were having a debate about that in the audition. This was ages ago. But basically, we auditioned a piece, and we didn't get selected for it. It was the year before me and Lee's duet, and for me, it's like that was something I had to deal with, of like not any resentment towards you or Michelle, but of like my art was rejected. And that was a process of me having to go, cool, like they didn't choose the piece. First of all, it doesn't mean they didn't like the piece. It just means that they didn't want it in the program. That's fine. It's their show. And second of all, it doesn't mean that it's not good or that I can't like it. It's like, I still love that piece that we did. I still think I'm still super proud of it. Yes. And the fact that we didn't get selected didn't stop that or kill that for me. But I feel how it could. Yes. And I think I was also a bit older. I had a lot of conversations, gone through a lot in life in general, and kind of realized, okay, you can't base your love of your own art on how other people view it or what it's selected for or what opportunities you're afforded with it, because it's personal to you. And if then it's like, I could look at Breakin Convention and be like, right, so what is it that do I want to create something that I know I can get onto the stage, or do I want to create something that I like, and then I'll see if I get onto the stage? Yes. And I think, kind of talking about, people having issues with you or whatever, I don't know if any of it's because of programming, but it is.
Okay. You know, I'm not going to mention no names, but that's fine. You know who they are. They know who they are and stuff. Yeah. And okay, so there's certain groups that have applied for Breakin Convention numerous times and didn't get it.
Yeah.
And they just said, you know what, Breakin Convention, what do they know anyway?
Yeah.
Fuck Breakin Convention, yeah? And I get it. And you know what? It wouldn't make sense if people didn't have angst towards us. Do you know what I mean? Right. Because we've become this big, almost immovable brand.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It feels as though we're going to be here forever. Do you know what I mean? And it hurts a little bit because I know that there are certain people that should have done Breakin Convention, you know what I mean? And the buck stopped with me, do you know what I mean? And it feels as though that group could have gone on and done better things, but no, if it wasn't for Breakin Convention, not putting us on.
Yeah.
But the reality is there's people like Diversity who have never done Breakin Convention, and they've blown up beyond Breakin Convention. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, let's we've got to realize that this is one avenue. Yeah.
Sure.
And one of the things that I have tried to do is I've tried to establish other theatres, you know, and artists within those other theatres. Someone who comes to mind is Nathan Gearing.
Okay.
He's doing brilliant things up in the Midlands and north of England and Sheffield, and he's been named the co-artistic director of a company up there. I'm
amazing.
Sure you'll let us know. But one of the things that I was important to me is establishing that Breakin Convention is not the only avenue. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to make sure that there are other avenues up and down and around the country and around the world.
Yeah.
So it's not them or us. It's all of us.
And I think that, you know, that's really interesting and important coming from you saying that Breakin Convention is not the only avenue. Do you know what I mean? Because in a way you could, if you were a different person, have like an ego of like, no, we're the way to get recognized or whatever, or our opinion is the most valid or whatever. But I think I think that's really interesting and true that like, this is how I would say it as an analogy is like, you're having a house party and it just so happens that your house party is the most popping house party. If I want to come to your house, it's still your house. It's not a club that I can just pay entry and I get to get in whenever I want. It's your house. So if I show up and you say, Luke, I can't let you in the house. I just don't want you here. I can't have beef with you because I don't have a right to be in your house, even if there's a popping house party there. You know what I mean? Like, So I think this is how I see these type of things where it's like, at the end of the day, I can't say my piece should be on Breakin Convention stage because it's not my stage. If I'm programming a festival, cool. But I'm not. I'm asking you, would you like to program me? If you say no, it can be, even if you were like, I don't like your shoes, I don't want you on my stage. You know, it's your right. You know, we could discuss whether that's the right way to program a festival. But I think, you know, this is the thing that I think people, and this is not necessarily in reference to Breakin Convention, anywhere where they're like, oh, we should have got this, we should have got that. It's like, you know, even with auditions and stuff, it's like, it might just be something super arbitrary. It might be depending on the other, because you might go in with a piece and you're like, my piece is fire, and it might be, but they might have already programmed another 3 pieces that look the same.
Yes.
There's way more to programming than just my piece is good, it should be on the stage. Like, also your impression of good might be limited. You know what I mean? Like, I'm only the artist that I am. I can't look at my piece from your perspective. Yes. So you might be like, you think your piece is good, but you got some work to do. So I think there's a lot more, and I don't know how you can live as an artist if you indulge in your bitterness about not getting stuff, because it's like you're always going to not get stuff your whole artistic career, and you kind of have to whatever that is, you might have to find your way to deal with that. I wonder also if it's because you're the face of Breakin Convention and there's a face to it. If I don't get selected at somewhere else that's just the name of the festival, I'm like, oh, that's annoying. But it's like, it's you did it. Like, you know what I mean? There's a face that they can be angry at.
It's true. And people are angry at me. And I'm like, you know what? You know, be angry with me. You know what I mean? And
what can you do?
You know, what can you do? What I can do is say that we're not the only avenue, do you know what I mean? And I think it would be a shame. You know, okay, so I look at, there's other brands that are developing, like Artists for Artists. They're doing some amazing work, you know? And I'd like to say that we're part of the same team. Yeah. But sometimes we're not, do you know what I mean? And they're doing their own thing. But for me, I support them fully, 100%. And also, we got to recognize that, you know, we kind of helped them in the first place anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Johnny at the venue in what's the name of it? Gordon Bennett. My brain is just turned into a bloody sieve. Dagenham. There's a space. Ooh, Gordon Bennett. Why didn't I have all of this written down?
Right.
Redbridge.
Yeah.
Redbridge, yeah. So originally Pete Mannion, who used to be
I know Peter, yeah.
We love Pete. We miss you, Pete. Come back.
Where is he? He's
in Scotland.
Scotland, yeah.
And he's developing some beautiful stuff up in Scotland, and we're still in community and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I think he booked me for Breakin Convention when I was teaching in Scotland for you guys.
Yes,
he was the one that booked me when he was working there. Yeah.
So I'd like to think that we've got a really national brief.
Yeah.
And there's people that have left us, or people that have worked with us and are doing other things themselves. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I can't remember what my point was. Damn, I'm losing it.
That is not like kind of not indulging in the beef side of it and just like showing love for everyone.
Yeah. Fundamentally.
Yeah.
Peace, love, unity, and let's just have some fun.
Yeah, man. No, I think that's a really, I mean, to be honest, I don't think you would have reached the position that you're in if you didn't have that mentality to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine this mentality of yours just sprung up overnight. That you were like, well, I hate everyone, but I'm pretty successful now, so I've got to change. It's like, I can imagine you being that type of person. And for me, these type of people are the ones that succeed because you're not weighed down by your grudges, or you know what I mean? It's like, all right, you're gonna hate me. I'm gonna accept the responsibility of this position, and we get on. Do you think it ever affects the team around you? Because that's your mentality, but there's probably other people that.
Well, I think the thing with my team is that we've stayed together for many years.
Yeah, it's quite. I was talking to Michelle about that. It's quite a long-standing team, right?
Yeah, and some people leave, and I mean, Kate Scanlon. I think that she's done some amazing stuff with the bridge down at the South Bank, and I'd like to think that anything that she does going forward into the future, that she knows that Breakin Convention, we're here. Go on, Kate. Keep doing your thing, and artists for artists as well. We initiated that relationship with Johnny. That was what I lost my thread on. That Peter Mannion initiated the relationship with Johnny, and I said to Johnny, do hip hop. This is something that your space and Redbridge could probably be invigorated. And he said, yeah, and that's how it's worked.
Oh, nice.
And he's programmed a lot of stuff, and as I said, Artists for Artists came out of that. And I just think that we've got to keep open. Do you know what I mean? And especially right now with the polarization thing and the way in which some of us are at risk. Do you know what I mean? And there's some companies where the artistic directors have been accused of things. You know what I mean? And how do you help people when they're part of the cancel culture? Do you know what I mean? And how do we navigate and avoid the pitfalls that could make it seem like that, okay, that's it, that's the end of you. You know what I mean? And we can't let that happen. We've got to be there at times where people need us the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. The other thing I was gonna ask you about, it was just what you said was so interesting. I forgot my point. So with, I guess, like what's happening now in the scene, and like you're still around and you still see what's happening. Do you have any, on a kind of lighter note, do you have any people that kind of stand out to you that like you think are dope, or people that you have your eye on that you might want to share with us that are maybe not like, okay, I'm not being able to take you on tour or to be able to do this, but I see what you're doing and you're dope?
I really like what Ice is doing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, man, I really like, and we've done some stuff at the 15-year anniversary.
Yeah.
We worked closely together. I like his freestyle sessions that he's doing. I think they're dope, and I'm looking forward to when we start to explore improvisation as a theatrical form. You know what I mean? And, you know, we can look at people like contemporary dance, Watertights, was part of Martha Graham's thing. Merce Cunningham. So Merce Cunningham in the late 60s, early 70s, he was really famous for, all of these explorations and stuff. And I see Ice, and he reminds me of that kind of energy. He's a real maverick with what he's doing. So I'm excited about that. Chloe Dean, she's been doing her thing, Myself. And that whole, and also for the female voice, she's been really backing it hard,
like standing firm in that aspect of her.
And I think that's something that I would say that we need more female leaders, to push through. And it's a shame because I remember Project G, I feel as though maybe that they might feel as though that they weren't supported as much because they would have, I guess, auditioned numerous times. What I mean? Right. And I remember speaking to Olu about it, and she said, "Yeah, Jonzi, man, you lot didn't really help us out." Not, she didn't say that. She said that she felt as though we didn't help them. What I mean? But then I remember speaking to her, and she said that, you know what, John, some of our work wasn't ready. You know what I mean? But again, these disappointments that I have, and they kind of itch my back.
Yeah, you're like, I wish I could have done something. Yeah.
But things ain't done. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're gonna be here forever. Forever and ever, and ever and ever. I'm biting Karis one. We will be here forever. So the door is always going to be held ajar. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And I think also there's more, because I've been only on main stage with my work once, and that was a duet. Besides that, I performed for Quayle on main stage. But all the other things I've done for Breakin Convention or with Breakin Convention have all been the other programs that you run. So it's not only, I guess, getting selected for the main stage. It's like, and also this is the thing, which I don't know if any of the rejection is from stuff like this, but sometimes you don't want main stage, and this is something that I think I had to get told. And I think I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's true. Like, if you're starting a new piece of if you're starting a new piece of work, you might need open heart surgery. You might need back to the lab. You might need space and time to explore more than you need a performance opportunity. Because if you don't have work that's ready, even if you get the performance opportunity, it stops dead. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because you have much more experience than me with this, but in terms of making work as an artist, especially as a dancer and moving into this type of space, what you want is a trajectory rather than a piece of work and one opportunity. You want something that's going to build and go and go and go. So if you get main stage, is that a step along your journey, or is it that's all you're ever going to do? Like the piece that me and Lee did, this was our choice to kind of not continue with that. And he's more into painting and stuff now, and he's killing it with his painting, and I'm glad he is. But we created work for that audition. We got the audition, created the piece for the main stage. And then when that was complete, you had nowhere else to go with it. We had conversations, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do this. But the truth was, that was always the end goal. And if the end goal is main stage at Breakin Convention, then where do you go from there? You know what I mean?
I did not know that people's end goal was the main stage of Breakin Convention. And
I can't speak for everyone, but I can imagine that being the case.
I have heard this before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm honored that people feel as though that's the end goal. But guys, that's not the end game. That's the beginning of your trajectory as far
So
as
what would you say is what would you, if you were an artist or you were giving advice to an artist, what would you use main stage for? How can that become your
profile?
Okay.
I think that profile, I'd like to think that we get a lot of press. There's a lot of attention that's given to Breakin Convention. People are waiting to see, who the next hot thing is. You know what I mean? So I'd like to think that Breakin Convention could be that platform. But unfortunately, it's not. Once you've done it, If you did want to do more, you need to have other theatres that are really going to get involved. You're going to need to have other producers that can see your work in other spaces other than Breakin Convention. We need to create more touring networks, and that's something I'm working on next year, actually.
Okay.
Developing small-scale touring networks so we don't have to worry about having to fill these big venues outside of Sadler's world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're going to develop stuff with the Mac in Birmingham. Actually, I don't want to mention all the venues that we're working with, just in case. But we're looking at working with a lot of smaller venues up and down the country, and we're going to be doing open art, the next level of open art surgery, and tour that. So we're not having to worry about doing these massive venues, you know what I mean? So we're looking more at grassroots development again, you know? So what we've been doing with these other programs, it's about these other programs. It's not about big Breakin Convention aspirations, because some of them are short-lived.
Yeah.
And also, we've gone through this horrible pandemic, which has hemorrhaged funding and how we're going to work with funding now. Yeah. So actually, we have to go small again. Do you know what I mean? But you know what? I love the small space.
I love the small stuff. Sometimes, you know, you as an audience member, sometimes you get a different experience, and as a performer and as a choreographer, it's like sometimes the small space is what you want. I'm like, just 20 people come and watch my show and give me feedback and let's talk about it. Like, I don't want that yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's not when it's ready.
For me, I think that, you know, there's the 20 people, there's the 100 people, there's the 500 people. All of this is not Breakin Convention scale. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that we've got to take a step back. Also, personally, I like the Lillian Bayliss as a performance area. You know, the work that I make tends to go in that space. You know, the show that I did, The Letter, and Lyrical Theatre, and some of them smaller, more intense pieces, I feel much more comfortable performing them when I can see the audience's eyes. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess I'd like to encourage people to see the main stage as Breakin Convention as transition. Do you know what I mean? You don't necessarily, that's not the be all and end all. And also smaller spaces is probably where you'll get more joy when it comes to repeating work rather than having to invest in this big one show in the main house. I mean, what I'd like to do is get more artists doing the main house. And I'll use Spoken Movement as a good example of a company that's definitely ready for that main stage, and they're going to be doing the main stage next year.
Oh, nice.
Springtime. And again, it's not even necessarily in the context of Breakin Convention. You know, I think it's really important that we develop more sustainable touring networks. And I think it is about going small. I don't think it's about main stage.
Yeah, because also I wonder if something that I learned more into my choreographic journey that I never knew as a dancer was that it's a lot of times it's about the length of the piece. That, you know, we can do a 5-minute showcase, which I was doing way back when I was 18 or something. But then it's like, you're not going to get 12 dancers flown to another country and hotel and fee to perform for 5 minutes. They want more, you know what I mean? So being able to create longer pieces is helpful. And I guess if you can learn that bit by bit, it helps. You know, this is something, and now it's like, you know, I've been flipping doing this for too long to have just realized this now, but is that you do it step by step. And it's like, okay, I would love to at some point as a choreographer have an hour-long show that's my own thing at Sadler's or wherever, you know. But if I can't make a 10-minute duet, I'm never going to get there. And it's like I know I can make a 5-minute piece. I've done that a lot of times. Can I make a 10-minute one? Let's find out. When I do that, let's make 15, let's make 20, and then build up. And I guess each of those stages need performance. They need feedback. They need, you know, to be able to be performed with real light so you understand. So I guess just building a half an hour show and then saying, here, I've done it, you're missing all these steps that need development. And that's where I think what I think has been helpful for me and a lot of people is stuff like open art, Back to the Lab, where I'm like, cool, we just made a 7-minute piece, but I needed to make a 7-minute piece so that I know I can make a 15 or whatever, you know?
And I think we've got to appreciate the mixed bill program. Do you know what I mean? Which is what Breakin Convention does all of the time. That programming will always exist. Do you know what I mean? And there are people that don't want to make an hour-long work. Actually, they make 20-minute pieces.
And it's still beautiful and still valid and still... One of my favorite pieces ever is The Statement by Crystal Pite. I don't know if you've seen it.
I love all of that woman's work.
She's amazing. Yes. But that piece blew my... And admittedly, I haven't seen a lot of her work. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 pieces. But that is one of my favorite pieces I've ever seen. And it's 20 minutes, I think. Though I don't know if what I saw was an extract. I don't think so. I think it was the full piece is about 20, 25 minutes. One of my favorite pieces ever. I've also seen a lot of hour-long shows that I didn't like. It's not an indicator of quality.
And also, time is not an indicator of anything. Yeah. And I think that what's happening with Netflix now, the whole idea of making 15-minute works is great for the Netflix vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to think about doing a half-hour or an hour-long show. You can do a 37-minute show and people will watch it. Do you know what I mean? Because we can stop and we can pause and we can binge if we want to, or we could do really short snaps. You know what I mean? It's the game is open. You know what I mean? We are allowed to define how our work is seen. We don't have to fit within an hour context or a 5-minute context. We can just make our work and just know that the context will be there for you. Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's a really nice perspective on, I see a lot of people talking about how, which is true, how social media and Instagram has like shortened our attention span and shortened, like we're all making 1-minute videos or 1-minute choreos because we know that's all that fits on Insta and not a lot of people view IGTV. But that's like a kind of almost a converse way of looking at it is like, if you don't limit yourself to just Instagram and you think of all the social media platforms, Netflix, certain stages or whatever, and you take in the whole scene of where you can perform art, there's a lot of different places. And it's like, if you just make a piece, if you're like, all right, it's 8 minutes, it can go here. It happens to be a 1-minute piece. Oh, well then it's perfect for Instagram. If it's just a 30-second thing I made up, well, put it on TikTok or what, you know, like if you zoom out and think of the work first, there, like you said, like there's so much democratization almost of like where we don't need to wait until we've fit your requirements to display our work.
Precisely. And yes, another pandemic silver lining is that, you know, there's a lot of people making film. You know what I mean? This is an avenue in which we all have access to it. You know, we've 20, let's say 30 years ago, the idea of making film is not something that you realistically do. But now, when you look at the technology of how things are getting so much smaller,
cheaper,
drones. I mean, we're making Hollywood level films. Do you know what I mean? With minimum technology.
Yeah, some of the stuff that people are creating just in their backyard is like in the 60s or whatever, they couldn't have created anything that quality.
You know? So I think we've got to look at just make the work. That's my idea for artists. Make the work. Just keep making the work. Don't allow these illusions of success or illusions of grandeur define how you make work. The idea that the hour-long piece is a goal is ridiculous, and it's only going to limit your potential as an artist.
I think there's something actually that you said to me when we auditioned the duet, because it was the piece that we auditioned was 10 minutes. And you said, I think you told us in the thing that like you would want to program it. And like we said, we're still working on it and blah, blah, blah. And you said, how like long do you think it'll be? And we said, oh, maybe like this length, like 10 or 11. And you said, don't make it to be 10 or 11 because you've told me it's going to be this long. Make it how long the piece needs to be. And then tell me how long that is, you know, like start with the piece. And I was like, I really appreciate that. I was like, oh, that's nice. Like we don't have to fill a quota. We just do what the work needs. And if it happens to be that long, cool. Yeah.
And how long was it? Did it end up?
I think it was similar. It was maybe a minute longer actually.
Right.
Which I guess was the whole thing of that piece. There was a lot of like silence, and which I guess maybe it's the opposite as well. If we were trying to shrink it to only be 10 minutes, it might not have had those long pauses and stuff, which I quite liked about that piece.
I saw Born to Protest. It was the first piece that I saw on tour for over a year, and it was just last weekend in Leicester. And I remember watching it thinking, you know, I loved the piece. It was a half an hour piece, and I've been thinking I need a piece that's 15 minutes for the Dutch Breakin Convention tour, which is going to happen in October, November. Nice. Which is really good. And I watched this piece and I thought it's really good, and but I don't need it a 30-minute piece. So I spoke to him after and I said it was really, really nice. But I need a 15-minute version. He said, Jonzi, actually, it was a 15-minute piece, and we developed it into a 30-minute piece. And actually, I could tell there were certain sections that I thought, okay, I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Can you move on now? But he worked it and he got away with it. Yeah. But the reality was, I could tell that was an idea that was egged, do you know what I mean? You egged it to make it a half an hour piece. Whereas actually the gem, I think, is 15 minutes.
And it's perfect that worked out to that's what you need. Yeah. You know?
But obviously programmers go, 15 minutes? Oh no. Yeah. we need half an hour. Okay, it's all right, I'll make it half an hour. Yeah. You know? And I think we just got to be careful of context. Yeah. Don't let context make your work something that it's not. Stand firm for your context and trust that programmers will find ways to make it make sense.
That is bars. I like that. That is a really good way to, especially because as much as you're speaking from a choreographer and a performer and a programmer, like I'm hearing that as a choreographer and I'm like, cool, got it. Like I don't care about the podcast anymore. I'm like, cool, got it. Make the work. All right. No, but yeah, that's super good advice, I think. And I think it's a nice place to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here. And for talking with me.
Dude, you've come to my gaff, So just remember I'm here anyway.
Well, thank you for having me in your gaff. And thanks for sitting down with me. I super appreciate it. And the tickets are still on sale for this weekend?
Tickets are still on sale. You can still get tickets. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but if you go to the Sadler's World's website and look at the thing, you can actually see how many tickets are available.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So you can do that. But I'm pretty sure you can get tickets. You know, this is the Breakout Festival. It's not the Breakin Convention. It's the Breakout Convention. How often have you had the chance over the last year to do this?
And to see live work. Is it Sadler's at half capacity or?
It's half capacity.
Okay. Cool.
Because when we did social distancing in October, we were 30% capacity.
Okay. And that worked out all fine.
It worked out beautiful. Yeah. And I think people were just so happy to be out.
Yeah. I mean, 50% capacity is better than online.
Right. Tell me.
You know what I mean?
What? So, do you really want to see another Zoom show? Really?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah. So no, that's cool. So if you're listening, get your tickets, Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, the lineup is there online. I'm going to leave a link in the description of these. So yeah, definitely check that out. You can personally recommend Breakin Convention. And thank you for listening. And yeah, you can check out some of my other episodes if you'd also like to. And
you want to, yeah. Don't front people. Yeah, check out Luke Lente's podcast. They're beautifully done. He's got this really beautiful, disarming approach to the way he asks his questions. And
thank you.
I think that, I think Luke actually is going to start a TV show. Yeah, because dance doesn't work on podcasts.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to make some things happen and transform the podcast, but as you know, things take time. But yeah, thank you so much for that. That's very nice of you to say. And yeah, some of the people we've spoken about, Kenrick, Ivan, I've done talks with them, and hopefully some of the other people I'm going to. But yeah, cool. Thanks, Jonzi, and thanks everyone for listening, and catch you soon.
Peace and love.
You.